Just an off-the-cuff chat between you and me. Us. We want to talk right down to earth in a language that everybody here can easily understand.
Who are these people?
It's us. We're these people.
I love that intro. I love that intro so much.
I'm here with a different co-host this time, Oz LaFave.
Hey guys, thanks so much for having me on.
Friend of the show, DJ Joe Nice. How are you, friend?
What's good? And you hear Nick say this all the time. The United States is the most propagandized country in the world.
We are so fucked, you guys. Again, I'm sorry for being cynical, but seriously, we're fucked. We are fucked. We are well and truly fucking fucked.
Just appreciate all the work that you do and the platforms that you all are providing.
Hey, doing good. How are you guys doing?
And as independent media, we have a responsibility to be, we don't hide our bias, obviously, but we must stay true to the facts.
What's up, Pam?
Cheers and salutations. Smoke them if you got them. But I am here with a man that I've been waiting to talk to for the last couple of years, Nico House.
As an educator, what I would suggest is that, first of all, podcasts like these are made.
So you need to be an example for the people and for the future, knowing that your words can actually change the future.
What do you feel? What would Kwame Ture feel we would have to do?
Well, politics is every day of every minute. You have to be aware of what's going on. Not voting on one day, so the vote has never meant anything. So I'm not a Democrat.
See, I would call that guy the Black Obama.
No. The issues that we talk about, listen to us.
As always, kids, labels are bad. Stay independent. Good night, fam.
INN News.
Yay, we did it. Okay, Bear, we're here. This is our Hundo episode. Big Hundo.
You've done 100. You've done 100. I've done 90-ish.
I feel like you helped out most of those. It counts. So, yeah, we brought a guest. We brought a guest for 100 episode. We only bring him out occasionally. We had to make sure we let him out of the basement.
I think it's funny. I think the last 2 years we brought him on at around this time of year. I think we had him on last year for a year anniversary, and now we have him here for our 100th episode. So I think, I think you didn't plan that, but I think it's very fitting that we have this guest on.
Without further ado, Rob Durden of Political Fight Club. Look at you doing it. Out here.
What's up, fellas?
You're on the YouTubes for once. You're gonna get us kicked off immediately. I'll
be careful.
You don't have to be that careful.
No, fuck that. Well, given the first story that we're talking about, we may not be able to do this much longer.
Yeah,
the government has their way. So I just say fuck it at this point. So
which this was our first episode. I don't know if you remember that. Oh, great. Now we have broken studio mode. That's not good. I had the same thing happen to me. Why? There we go. Okay, I fixed it. I did it. I fixed it. Cool. So yeah, this is our first episode, Collin. Do you remember? Back all the way back then?
No.
We talked about the Will Smith slap. We talked about Bellingcat. I mean, I'll just let these roll.
I'm just looking at the
yeah. We got much better with our thumbnails over the years. We got
way better over the years. Right.
So
oh Lord.
I know. We Gucci Socialist. I remember that one.
So this is what you've been working on.
Yeah,
I had memory lane.
I had this. That was you. You were there.
Yep.
The Pfizer Miami Yacht Party. I remember that.
Yeah, I remember that. I think that was crazy. One of our biggest ones initially.
Yeah. AFT stuff. That was when Mad Crab was on. That was the Uhuru movement attack. Like heavy metal baby food. I remember doing that one. I liked that thumbnail. So many good ones. That one was a big one for us.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was when we had Joe Nice on. Misty came on. Yeah, I mean, we talked about a ton. Misty came on again. We've had Misty on quite a few times. So,
yeah.
That was Lula's election.
Yeah. Start to get better with
we talked Haiti. We talked about Haiti. We're going to talk about that again tonight. Oil experts. We had Savvy on. Just a ton of stuff. Jay Buffont came on. Kit came on.
I went to that.
Yeah.
With
so
machine.
WED Dubois. That clickbait thumbnail, very good. That was just called clickbait. Oz came on. Jose Vega. You brought your teacher friend. Gordon Dimmack came on. Indy came on. We talked about The Intercept. Jay Buffont came on again. Look, it's you again.
And last year.
United for East Palestine. With TikTok, we're going to talk about that again. Yeah, just a ton of stuff. What is this? We're almost to 100. That was when you called out the squad. We had Nico House on. Talked about the NED. We talked about Cornel West being terrible. Just so many. Ukraine's gravy train. Very happy with that gravy train reference. I could slip in there. Just no reparations for you. Jose came on again. Ukraine's Baby Factory, a great one. Paradise Bombed, another good one. Just a ton.
It's just so weird looking back now and just all the stuff that
Phantom Parrot
I covered with you over the last 2 years, and then
that was when
just the guests that we've had on. But then
Pasta came on.
I said this to you last week. I've learned so much.
Yeah.
Like just doing this show in terms of the stuff that I wouldn't know about that you kind of brought to me.
Yeah.
But then I know I've done the same for you, but I think it just really has helped me in terms of
John Pilger.
How it helped me realize how much more connected politics is to our everyday lives, even if we don't necessarily think about it.
Yeah.
And I think almost every story that we've covered in some way, shape, or form has kind of shaped
Aaron Bushnell.
more. And here we go.
Yep. Look, there it is.
Now.
That's us. This is our stories for tonight. So, all the way back to number 1. I do like this one I made. That one's very good. Kicking the can down the road.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely improved. I think even just being an INN, I think just my thumbnail game has improved so much.
Yes, both of ours has gotten much better. So yeah, we're going to talk about TikTok as well tonight. That's not on the list. But you brought Lord Balfour,
Yeah, I wanted to bring this because this had a moment on Twitter over the weekend, and that was it. And me being the curious little boy that I am, I wanted to know more, and I found out a lot more, which I think in light of talking to people who are in the Arab community kind of makes a lot more sense. And I think we realized in terms of the significance of the Balfour's Declaration and its impact, I think, just as far as this assault now. And I think it's very important that we do discuss it, because I was sharing with a friend, I think last week, a lot of the information I didn't know about. This was stuff that I wasn't talked about in my history classes at all, but then again, why would they?
Yeah.
But it does give more of a sense as to why I think there's a deep-seated anger within the Arab community, and this guy has a lot to do with it. So I think it is important that we kind of talk about it in light of the viral moment that he had over the weekend. Yeah. And then later on tonight, we are going to talk about the IDF and how they're recruiting people from other nations, the U.S. included, to fight in this assault. So going to do a deep dive on them a little bit.
Cool.
And what did you bring?
Well, I brought Haitian cannibals. Are they or are they not real? We're going to cover that. I tried to make sure Midjourney was as least racist as possible with that thumbnail. It had a tough time. You know, so, you know, Haitian cannibals, it spits out some pretty interesting things. But we're going to go into that. And then they're making a port in Gaza, and we're going to talk about what that might be and how that might be helping the Israelis, as we tend to be doing. So, yeah, that's what I brought. First on the list, though, we can tell you to support us at these places: Patreon, Substack, Rockfin, Rumble, and Cash App. They're very easy ways to do that. We very much appreciate the monthly donos over at Patreon. It helps us the most, I feel like, if you're willing to do that monthly for supporting INN to get more stuff like this. But we also have a goal initially, which you can go to Ko-fi, ko-fi.com/IndieNewsNetwork, or scan the QR code on your screen. We're trying to get Jesse to 1,000 so we can get him a new laptop for things so he can make stuff work. You know, but yeah, do that. You know, you might get fun messages come up on screen. Who knows? This is the way to support us, since YouTube has demonetized us and hasn't told us whether we're going to be remonetized or not. And with how JB is looking, we might not get remonetized that way. So we'll see. But first on the list for stories, actually, you know, thank you to all these people who already support us. We appreciate you. I need to get Indy's new one and put that up, because I'm betting we're missing some folks. But TikTok got banned. Who would have thought? Well, it's not quite banned yet.
Not yet, but it's on its way to be if the Zionists get their way, which they probably will. And
very easy. TikTok bill passes U.S. House. ByteDance now has 6 months to divest from TikTok. Otherwise, the app will be banned in the United States if it passes the Senate. So I wanted to look at real quick, if it will let me, this right here. So this is from CNN. This is how each member of the House voted, right? We've got, 50 Democrats said no, 15 Republicans said no, but looks like George Carlin's right again, that bipartisan shit's meant to fuck us on both sides of the aisle. So, you know, that's pretty much how that works. Anyone we want to go specifically to look at?
No.
Yes. No. Biggs, Arizona. Bishop.
Like, we know how the squad vote. I mean, people care a little bit about the squad. We know how they voted.
Bowman voted no.
Of course they did, because they have no power and it means nothing. So it doesn't hurt them not to.
Oil voted no. Who else? Who else voted no? Bush voted no. Or sorry, no. Yeah, Bush. And then any other no's? Cesar.
Yeah, it's all symbolic at
Castro.
This point.
Yeah.
You know, they have no power anymore. So it doesn't really matter. If you were to do a test where you just looked at all the yes votes and then track to see if those people are getting a bunch of APAC money, you would find that there is a strict correlation.
Yeah, we're gonna get to that for sure. Esplat.
You can move on.
Yeah.
You can move on.
Cool.
We don't need to see this.
Okay. Well, we do need to see this. Nancy Pelosi with another great one-liner.
This is not an attempt to ban TikTok. It's an attempt to make TikTok better. Tic-tac-toe. A winner. A winner.
So, you know.
Tic-tac-toe. A winner.
I just had to put that on the soundboard because why not? So, Thomas Massey, the so-called TikTok ban is a Trojan horse. The president will be given power to ban websites, not just apps. The person breaking the new law is deemed to be the U.S. or offshore internet hosting service or app store, not the foreign adversary, right? So he points out foreign adversary controlled application. The term foreign adversary controlled application means a website, desktop application, mobile application, or augmented or immersive technology application that is operated directly or indirectly, including through a parent company, subsidiary, or affiliate by a foreign adversary, right? So again, it shall be unlawful for an entity to distribute, maintain, or update or enable the distribution, maintenance, or updating of a foreign adversary controlled application by carrying out within the land or maritime borders of the United States any of the following: providing services to distribute, maintain, or update such foreign adversary controlled application, including any source code or such application by means of a marketplace, including an online mobile application store through which users within the land of maritime borders of the United States may access, maintain, or update such application, or provide internet hosting services to enable the distribution, maintaining, or updating. Right? So, all that fun stuff. Misty responds, all the censorship shit we've been warning about, they're doing it out loud and in the open with no apologies. Do we wonder why that is? Do we wonder why that might be? Well, it might be this guy, ADL's Jonathan Greenblatt. So we'll see what he has to say, unfortunately.
Speak frank about it. We've been on this show. We've talked about Instagram. We've talked about Twitter or X, and you've seen my back and forth with Elon Musk. But we need to talk about TikTok. TikTok, if you will, it is the 24/7 news channel of so many of our young people. And it's like Al Jazeera on steroids, amplifying and intensifying the anti-Semitism and the anti-Zionism with no repercussions. I've got to ask, Joe, like there's been a lot of lamentations about the fact that TikTok's ownership is Chinese, but you know what? Oracle owns 10% of the company. General Atlantic owns a piece of the company. Our friends at Sequoia Capital own a piece of the company. So does Sequoia and General Atlantic, does Oracle want to be responsible for spreading anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism? It's time to talk about TikTok. And I think we need members of Congress to be asking them, why are they doing enough? And let me be clear, I've met with Shou Chew, the CEO. I've talked to their leadership, but it is long past time for TikTok and its owners and its investors to step up and say, enough, we're going to take action.
Frank Ford, do you have teenage kids?
I do.
So you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Like it is amazing what our children, what their friends, what younger people are getting, the unfiltered anti-Semitic bile that they're getting every day off of TikTok. And again, I didn't understand what was going on college campuses, why it was happening. Yeah. If you don't understand what's going on in college campuses, don't look at the University of Penn, right? Look at TikTok.
I mean,
that's where this is.
It makes me despair for the world that they're going to inhabit, just the low quality of the informational ecosystem in which they exist, where demagoguery, misinformation circulates like oxygen. And it also makes me despair for the ways in which they debate one another, that they're just incapable of expressing disagreement without resorting to hyperbole, and also the way in which everybody is forced to take sides about an issue which most people have exceedingly low knowledge, which is why you get
extraordinarily ignorant on this
why
issue.
We take sides on genocide.
I don't say that about
why would we do that?
East. You know, people who have no idea what's been going on since 1948 will look at a 30-second clip. And then they'll become experts and march across the college campus.
They'll take over the building based on TikTok.
Take out TikTok.
And the numbers of young
This is a leaked call, by the way.
Yep.
Yeah. So the audience understands.
Iranian.
Which I could show you from their toolkits, because our analysts are in their groups. We saw this again on October the 8th. It was that fast.
Right after October 8th, we know it definitely didn't happen anything before that. Nothing happened before that. So yeah. Thoughts so far, fellas?
Look, I said this to you off air. And I'll say it again, please. And I'm not on TikTok, so it's just too much for me. I'm a Twitter guy, so I can't be on all these social media apps all day. But please, I am begging them, ban it. Because what a great way to fucking lose Gen Z forever. Please do it. Please do it. And it's so funny because I said this on Twitter. Wouldn't it be funny if the revolution that we all been waiting for happens because of fucking TikTok? Not because of healthcare, not because of homelessness, not even because of Aaron Bushnell, may he rest in peace, like over 2 weeks ago, over fucking TikTok. Wouldn't that be a thing? That would be, to me, glorious. If Gen Z and the youth basically uprise against the establishment because of bullshit like this. And, you know, they basically kind of call themselves out in terms of, you know, in the past when they talked about TikTok, it's all they have to do with China, whatever. We know this is very much that they're trying to protect Israel. This is all about trying to hide the propaganda that they've been spewing, that they know that they're failing at. And especially with the youth, that they are more aligned. And look, here's the thing. And this is the part that sucks for me, because in my next segment about Lord Balfour, I actually will give like actual information in terms of why, you know, the situation is as it is in Israel, Palestine right now. But to them, that will be considered anti-Semitic and maybe misinformation, when that has actually been, you know, proven to be true. So the idea that, you know, anything that we can say can be deemed by them as misinformation, I think just sucks. But I think, you know, on a bigger level, this affects us too. You know, we've already been demonetized, you know, and we've already been like, and I know, Rob, you know this very well, given how, you know, you're on Rockfin now due to the bullshit that YouTube has done to you, like as far as your personal channel. Like people have to understand, like, this, you know, anyone who's in independent media, especially with our colleagues, should be very concerned about this. And the fact that, you know, as I said earlier, the idea like healthcare, homelessness, they have to like debate and like pretend like, oh, we can't do this. Oh, we have to have this committee to kind of figure this out. Within how many days, or I would argue months, like they were able to get this bill passed in the House practically immediately because Zionists basically told them to. It's disgusting.
Yep.
And I think it's actually going to put the politicians in sort of a bind, because if they actually do want to keep their seats, and this pertains particularly to someone like Biden, he's got to know that he's got to get Gen Z to get reelected. So is he going to bow to his masters? Are the people in the Senate, which is very close, are all those senators going to go against the grain and risk losing that entire generation by doing this? It does put them in a difficult position, but of course their masters are telling them that they have to essentially do this. And if the bill does actually pass, I think it'll be a testament to how much power AIPAC and the Israeli lobby actually has, because it's pretty clearly like a suicide bill for some of these people that actually want to maintain a career in politics. Because even Chris Mowry, you guys know that guy that little fella on Twitter who's he's being paid by Palette Media, which is essentially a DNC cutout to spread propaganda like Harry Sisson and all them. Even he called out Biden today. So I'm like, if you're losing the guy who's like on your payroll, you've lost that generation if you pass that bill. I think you're right, Collin. Like,
he tried to tell Sabby he wasn't paid by the DNC, and she was like, "There's motherfucking receipts, dog." Like,
wait,
we have pictures.
Wait, he responded to her?
Yeah, he responded to her.
That's not smart.
Like a dummy. So let's get to him first.
Goddamn mouth shut.
Indy replies to Greg, who's posting that hotspot video we just watched, because maybe stuff didn't start on October 7th on TikTok. Jewish American here. You don't speak for me. Stop buying off Congress and the media with this propaganda nonsense. Israel murdered 300 plus Palestinians and 23 before October 7th. Tear gassed Al-Aqsa last Ramadan. So we also covered who actually runs TikTok. Go back in our video files and check out TikTok Trojan Horse. That was with me and Jesse. Great article by Alan McLeod. That it's, run by the CIA. Speaking of CIA, you were talking about Chris Mowry, who said Congress and the White House owe it to the American people to show us the evidence they have regarding security concerns with TikTok, 170 million active users, and the lack of transparency along with the confusion is unacceptable. People have built their livelihoods on TikTok. So, yeah. This guy, I don't know who he is, but the influencers who made their money by being sellouts to the Dim Party are losing their shit. I couldn't agree more. Very funny. Very funny stuff.
I will say this too, very quick. And again, talked about this with you offline, but the reality is Harry and Chris and all of them, they'll be just fine. Because they don't talk about anything problematic per se. They're just shills for Biden and talk about Trump all day long. That's the narrative that the mainstream media wants to push. So as long as they kind of keep within that vein, they will be just fine. Even assuming that if it does pass and then an American buyer has to buy off TikTok, and God forbid it could be very well a Zionist billionaire who would just happen to buy it, they'll be cool. It's us that will be fucked, because we are the ones that go against them and actually do promote truth. That it's the people on YouTube and other platforms as such, or basically anything that they don't like, that they will deem unacceptable, is a target.
Al Jazeera, Mint Press, In Context, RT for sure.
Hotspot.
Maybe. Yeah. Plenty of places. Twitter. World's their oyster with this. This is Patriot Act 2 on steroids. So we'll see. Anything to add to finish up?
Basically, statistically, and even one of the congressmen said it today on video, that's where people go on TikTok, is where people under the age of 25 go to get their news.
Yeah.
So that's actually the real problem. And the real problem that the Zionists have is that when the genocide first started, the I stand with Palestine versus I stand with Israel hashtags on TikTok, it was 6-1 in favor of Palestine. That number I saw earlier today in a report that it's actually 39-1 now. So in considering what Chris just said, which is one of the first true things he's ever said, which is there's 170 million people on there. You think about the Zionists are getting their ass handed to them so badly on TikTok, and particularly to young people who get all their news from TikTok. That explains to you why they're getting targeted more than any other platform, is because the young people who are now kind of engaging in this citizen journalism are all turning to these social media sites, and in particular TikTok, and that's where the Zionists are getting their ass handed to them. I would argue because it's full of young people who generally tend to be against genocide and see all the clips and generally tend to be against what's going on, where it's only the old people who watch MSNBC like Morning Joe that tend to be on the side of Israel in the first place. That explains why that ratio is so high on TikTok, and it explains exactly why that's the platform that they're going after. Anybody that's telling you this is about China, it has nothing to do with China. That's all propaganda. It's a pretext to try to force it through Congress and to sell that to the public. What this is about young people educating each other on a very popular platform that isn't owned by American companies, so they can't deregulate, or they can't, I mean, TikTok has its problems, but it's not like Facebook, where I tried to reshare that Tehran Times article that leaked that audio that we just listened to from the ADL, and you can't actually share it on Facebook. There's a warning comes up and it won't let you share it. So TikTok is still better than that. So they're just getting their ass kicked. And that's why TikTok is getting targeted, because the Israeli lobby understands statistically it needs to go away so they can maintain their narrative.
Well, it's also,
which I feel like
they're pushing for war in Taiwan too. I mean, we're more than willing to start with the anti-China stuff. So,
Yeah. And it's a bonus. Yeah, you're right. Like that narrative also bonuses, paves the way for us, going to war with China in 2027 or whatever.
Yeah. Well, anything else? I think that's it.
I'm good.
I mean, the only thing I have to say, too little, too late.
Yeah.
Like, try as you might. Again, as I said, do it. I would love to see them do it. I would love to see them try to ban it and have young people basically be all pissed off that it will affect this election and probably every single election thereafter. Because if they, as Rob said, if they really want to, and again, it's sad that it's come to like an app to actually kind of engage people, but I could see it. Because as you said, people are engaged, young people, and then off of, it's not even just on the app. It's that, as you said, Rob, people are talking to each other, especially on college campuses, which is why college campuses have also been affected, because you're in that space where you're able to connect with each other just in terms of your ideas, and you're able to have good conversations about this issue, and you may be able to kind of figure out like what you may not necessarily have learned in school in terms of this issue. So to have that already been happening, and even prior to October 7th, and take away the very vehicle that is lending people to hear the truth in a way that is tangible to the youth, they're gonna be on their shit if it's banned. So, like I said, I want to see it happen. And I hope that this is kind of the start of a revolution, especially among the youth rise up. So, I mean, we'll have to wait and see. But, I mean, it sucks it has to be this way. But if this is a way to kind of get people more engaged, I'm all for it.
Yeah. Well, and this is just either forcing someone to sell or just more censorship. So, we don't stand for that here,
I don't stand for that.
So, but what we do stand for is getting some monies for things occasionally. I know people don't have any, but we take what we can get. If you scan that QR code or go to ko-fi.com/Indie News Network, you can help us get Jesse a new computer because he needs it. We're getting there. That little green bar's going up. Make it go up a little more.
Or if you forget the link, you can type in the chat
exclamation mark donate,
and it will pull it up for you, and you can give at any time during the stream.
And if you can't do that, do some of these things, like and subscribe, hit the share button, leave a comment, do all the things to try to fight the censorship to help us out. We appreciate it. Cool. Let me go check Rockfin and Rumble, which I will leave for people in the chat before we get to that. But yeah, let's leave Rockfin and then Rumble because YouTube might not be there for us. We got Dave Burt holding it down over on the Rockfin. But we got Indies over on Rumble saying episode 100 boobies. Cool. So, yep. You ready for our next one? I'm ready.
Yeah.
Cool.
So speaking of truth telling,
who are these people?
Oh, hey, look at that. A new donation from Sean. What I can give, thank you. Thank you for the $10, Sean. We appreciate it. Thank you. You were saying, Care Bear?
You might. So I'm kind of surprised. I'm not really, but still kind of surprised. This issue did not take off as much as it probably should have. Oh, at least I felt like there should have been more conversation around this, over the weekend. So, so here's what happened. So there's a tweet regarding Lord Balfour's portrait at Trinity College in Cambridge in the UK, basically getting destroyed. And of course, everybody was up in arms, especially the Zionists, basically being like, how dare you, like, blah, 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 whatever, So me, obviously, being the curious little man I am, I was like, okay, so obviously there has to be some significance to this because I didn't necessarily know the history. Obviously, I know of Lord Balfour, given I grew up in the UK, but learning more about the significance of the declaration that he wrote and his ties to Israel, and then obviously, which people argue he essentially is the father of the shit that is happening in Israel and Gaza right now and has been happening, I would argue since the turn of the last century. I'm kind of surprised this hasn't gotten more discussion online as I think it should, but we're going to do that tonight, as we do sometimes. We teach you guys some shit.
Yep.
So this is going to be a short article, and it's going to be mostly video clips I pulled.
Yep.
It's from the media line. This is a new one that I just happened to find. This article is written by Steve Gannott, who writes, activists destroys Balfour portrait at Cambridge in protest over Israel. So he writes, at Cambridge University last Friday, a pro-Palestinian activist destroyed a portrait of Alfred Balfour, the British statesman and conservative prime minister who, as foreign minister in 1917, declared the British government's support for the establishment of a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine. The activist associated with Palestine Action sprayed red paint on the life-size portrait before slashing it with a knife. The incident is one of many recent protests linked to the Israeli-Hamas war. So here's the clip. So this is what went viral over the weekend. So if you want to play it.
Yep. If I do this and this, let's go.
So obviously, the Zionists were up in arms over that. And we'll get to we'll talk more about that later. But the Balfour Declaration, issued during the decline of Ottoman rule and when Britain was a significant global power, has been contentious, with Palestinians demanding an apology from Britain for what they see as the start of their displacement. The declaration led to British mandatory rule in Palestine, eventually culminating in the establishment of the State of Israel in 1948 and the Middle Eastern War that the displacement of more than 700,000 Palestinians. No. Forward. No.
There you go.
There we go. The Palestine Action Group argues that the Balfour Declaration initiated the ethnic cleansing of Palestine by promising land that, in the group's view, Britain had no right to give. The act of vandalism at Cambridge comes at a time when Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has called for stricter policing of protests and rising hate speech and threatening behavior, particularly in demonstrations related to the Gaza Strip conflict. Sunak emphasized the right to protest, but rejected using it to justify support for Hamas, which the UK considers a terrorist organization. Cambridge Trinity College expressed regret over the vandalism, offering support to college members affected by the incident or whatever. I'm sure that was probably like, no, I wouldn't say a fake, but like a duplicate. I'm sure they'll be able to replace it.
Yeah.
So I don't see it as
they'll still call it genocidal.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Why did they genocide that duplicate painting?
So you brought this.
So I brought this. This is from TRT World. So
right.
Let's get into
testosterone replacement therapy world.
So let's get into the history a little bit. So obviously, as I said, I didn't know too much about this until I did some of the research over the weekend. But let's dive a little deeper because, as we said, we want to teach you guys something here. Cool. So let's find out a little bit more about the Balfour Declaration and why it's problematic. So we can start with this footage.
We are proud of the role that we played in the creation of the State of Israel, and we will certainly mark the centenary with pride.
This was what Theresa May had to say about the 100-year anniversary of the Balfour Declaration. But what exactly happened on November 2nd, 1917? And what was the Balfour Declaration?
Wait, 1917? That's before October 7th, Colin. That's before then.
Yes.
All about a little bit. These 68 words were a historic promise given to the early Zionist movement by the British government for the establishment in Palestine of a national home for the Jewish people. Sir Arthur Balfour, then Foreign Secretary of Britain, wrote in a public letter to a famous British Zionist, Lord Walter Rothschild, which read,
His Majesty's government views with favour the establishment in Palestine of a national home for the Jewish people, and will use their best endeavours to facilitate the achievement of this object, it being clearly understood that nothing shall be done which may prejudice the civil and religious rights of existing non-Jewish communities in Palestine, or the rights and political status enjoyed by Jews in any other country.
This was just what the Zionists were looking for, as outlined in the First Zionist Congress during its meeting in Basel, Switzerland in 1897. Zionism seeks to establish a home for the Jewish people in Palestine secured under public law. Earlier, Theodor Herzl, their founder, had failed to realize this purpose when he couldn't get support from the Ottomans or any other European ruler. But this declaration basically laid out the foundation for the State of Israel. And since the second part of the agreement, where it talks about protecting the civil and religious rights for non-Jewish communities in Palestine, was never implemented, it resulted in a great injustice towards the Palestinian people, as thousands of them lost their homeland with the creation of this new Jewish state, and the ones who remained are being treated like second-class citizens. I think the late British author and journalist Arthur Koester summed it up best when he said, "One nation solemnly promised to another nation the country of a third." What were they thinking? Well, you see, Great Britain was in the midst of World War I, and one of its biggest foes was the Ottoman Empire. So they employed the tried and tested strategy of divide and conquer. They were giving the Arabs the promise of complete and final liberation in return for rebellion against the Ottoman rulers. The Crown had decided Palestine's for the Jews, thus ensuring a perpetually divided Middle East. And 31 years after the Balfour Declaration, the State of Israel was founded. But it's not 100% certain that this was the initial goal of the British government. The results have brought devastating consequences to the Middle East. It paved the way for the longest military occupation in recent history and destabilized an entire region. So should the UK government be proud of this landmark letter? Or should they come to terms with the reality of what it's done?
Okay.
Any thoughts? I have a couple, but any thoughts before I move on to the second clip? It will kind of give more
I mean, it sounds like Europe trying to placate the Rothschilds again. You know,
Yep.
Nice that they're included.
Right,
So,
but there will also, but this is what I didn't know until doing the research. The British also tried to placate the Arabs as well.
Yes,
because they basically played. So the British tried to play the Zionists. We'll get more into that in the next clip. They also tried to play into the Arabs in terms of promising essentially Palestine to them, if in support of getting rid of the Ottomans. And then the French were also involved because they own kind of parts of the Middle East at that time. So basically it was just a whole mess, in essentially the British trying to beat the Ottomans, that they basically said to one group, we'll do this, we'll promise you this land, and then another group, we'll promise you this land, and then the French they were trying to be allies with. So basically it was just a mess, like, finally. But one thing about the declaration that I think people might have noticed, like, which the declaration itself was vague as fuck, because and I should have pulled it separately, but it said Palestine should be a national home for the Jews. It never said anything about being the national home. There's a big difference. So it implies that it could be one, to me, or how I interpret it, like one of many.
Yeah.
So it didn't necessarily have to be Palestine per se. Again, as we know, and we've talked about on the show, East Africa was considered to be the national home for the Jewish people, as was Argentina, was also considered.
And I think there was a spot in Russia
So,
too, right? If I'm not mistaken.
So right. So it didn't necessarily have to be Palestine per se, but obviously the Zionists wanted it given, spiritual implications. But essentially, like, and I would argue that this declaration would have been more, to me, opinion versus, like, this was just one person's point of view in terms of versus having, like, a group of people collectively making this decision, like in government or something like that. So, Rob, is there anything that you want to add to that?
Basically, the way that this whole Zionist operation started was to, like the video showed, is to kind of destabilize the Ottoman Empire during World War I. But then the CIA eventually got involved with MI6, meaning like British and American intelligence all got together in the late 40s and decided that its function was to keep doing what it was doing, which is to keep the Middle East basically destabilized as its function. And all the religious stuff where this is the promised land, we're going to send you guys back to your homeland, that's all just setting the groundwork for getting a bunch of people to go over there and create this flotilla, this outpost of the US that is basically just keeping Middle Eastern countries from uniting and kicking the US out, protecting their natural resources and stuff like that. So its function was exactly what the video said in World War I, and then eventually all of the Israeli intelligence, MI6, and the US all started working together to basically just create this Western outpost that's whole function is to be there to destabilize. And that's what it's doing to this day. They're not just doing what they're doing in Gaza. They're bombing Lebanon. They're bombing Syria. They are there to destabilize and keep the Arab nations from uniting. But they're actually kind of failing at that at the moment, because they're actually uniting a lot of countries that previously had beefs with each other, because they all are agreeing that Israel is actually the bigger threat than each other. So in a way, they're actually like, they're really kind of failing themselves right now. And it's a good thing. I'm glad to see this whole operation kind of fall apart at the seams. But yeah, it does seem like a bunch of, basically not even a bunch, a few rich white guys in Britain decided that this is just something that they wanted to do, and so they signed a letter. Rothschilds were involved, and Bob's your uncle. Here we are, 100 and some odd years later.
Yeah.
Well,
all right.
You brought this clip.
I want to. So after looking at that clip again, Reef knows me well. I kind of ask more questions. So my next question after that was, okay, so what was Balfour's connection to Zionists then? Like, why was he willing to write this letter? Essentially kind of basically giving Palestine away. So this clip is from Imperial War Museum. There's going to be a lot of artifacts of this show. Don't care about that. Like, you care about it, but like, that's not really the focus here. So we're going to play like the second half of the clip, but it will kind of go into more of how the Zionists got involved to where Balfour was willing to write this declaration in the first place. So you can go ahead, Reef.
Having already made commitments to Arab nationalists and the French government, in November 1917, the British made one more promise regarding the land in Palestine, this time to Zionists seeking to set up a national Jewish state. Zionism was a social movement that began in the 1800s. It was founded on the belief that Judaism was not only a religion, but a nationality, and that Jewish people deserved a state like British or French people did. Due to historical and religious ties to the region, Palestine became the desired location for this future Jewish state.
So this armband, or brassard, was worn by a Palestinian Jewish volunteer with British forces serving in that area of the Middle East during 1918. Interestingly, there were 3 battalions of Jewish volunteers, 1 battalion of British, 1 of Americans, and 1 of Palestinian Jews. The British volunteers weren't really interested in Zionism at all. They were more interested in using that military service to the Crown to assimilate into British society. It was really the American volunteers and the local Jewish volunteers from Palestine who were really fired up by Zionism and wanted to use this to defeat the Ottoman Empire and secure that Jewish homeland. So what this object shows us, and the story behind it, is that although Zionism was a popular movement, the majority of Jews were not Zionists and didn't want to move to Palestine.
Jewish immigration to Palestine had been slowly increasing throughout the 1900s, mainly fueled by brutal anti-Semitism and terrible pogroms in Russia. By 1914, the Jews in Palestine numbered around 60,000, or 8% of the population. But for the British, it was Zionists elsewhere that they were concerned with. In an effort to win the support of Jewish communities in both Allied countries like the United States and enemy countries like Austria-Hungary, the UK Foreign Secretary signed the Balfour Declaration, vowing to set up a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine.
So the Balfour Declaration is signed in late 1917, in fact just after Allenby's victory at the Third Battle of Gaza. And this map shows the situation just before that battle. And it shows the confidence that the British have that they are going to win the war in the Middle East. Because let's face it, on this map, they haven't taken all of this territory yet, but they're already looking at the post-war settlement in this area. There are people within the British cabinet, Prime Minister Lloyd George is one of them, who thinks that having a Jewish homeland in Palestine is the right thing to do. But it's also politically expedient. The British and French war efforts by this time are pretty much under pressure. There's a manpower crisis, there's a crisis in raw materials. The Americans have joined the war in April 1917, and we really need the Americans to ramp up and get stuck into the war effort. So the idea is by supporting this Zionist idea, it will get Jewish financiers and industrialists in America on side, and they will put big pressure on the American government to keep them involved in the First World War and fight for the Allied cause. Now, this is an anti-Semitic idea that the Jews control world finance and business across capitalist countries. And that idea takes hold and is one of the reasons we think they can put pressure on the American government.
The declaration was vague. It said that the homeland would be in Palestine, but didn't say where. It also vowed to protect civil and religious rights of existing non-Jewish communities, but made no mention of their political rights. For the British, these conflicting promises were worth making to assure that they came out on top in the world's first total war. And they were effective. Britain and France were victorious over the Central Powers in 1918. But now that the war was at an end, the British would have to face the consequences. The choices they made would help to spark a century of conflict. Having captured Damascus in 1918, the British military left Faisal and his men in charge of a military occupation zone, an area that Faisal declared the Arab Kingdom of Syria. However, the French were not happy. Hoping to maintain their influence in the region, they expelled Faisal in a short war. It was a crushing blow to the pan-Arab cause. Instead, it was the victorious Allied powers who drew the new borders of the Middle East in a series of conferences from 1919 to 1923. With the formation of the League of Nations, Britain and France took control under a series of mandates. These were intended to prepare the local populations for independence. Initially, France was given the mandates for Syria and Lebanon, while Britain was given the mandates for Mesopotamia and Palestine. But after Faisal's defeat, the British decided to split Palestine in two. Faisal was given the crown of Mesopotamia, and his brother Abdullah was given the crown of the newly created Transjordan. The remainder of Palestine would be strictly British.
So this 1924 map shows the Palestine that came into being after the First World War. It is not part of a pan-Arab state. In fact, there is no pan-Arab state in this region. Also, it is not an internationally controlled area or an area in which the French have any control at all. It is a British-administered League of Nations mandate. What this mandate of Palestine does have, however, written into its statute, is the Balfour Declaration of a home for the Jewish people in Palestine.
Jewish immigration to mandatory Palestine continued to grow. By 1931, there were 176,000 Jewish people living there, making up 17% of the population. This led to increased tensions, riots and violence between the new arrivals and local Arabs who, along with existing Christian populations, were starting to see themselves not only as Arabs, but as distinctly Palestinian people.
What these new Jewish settlers bring in is lots of financial backing, and they start to buy up more and more land. So it's more the fertile agricultural land of Palestine, which actually makes the Jewish population increasingly economically dominant in the area. The British government gets very, very worried about this. In 1930, the Colonial Secretary puts forward a white paper to drastically limit Jewish immigration into the Palestine Mandate. The following year, 1931, pressure from Zionists within the British government and also world Zionist leaders talked Ramsay MacDonald into dropping the white paper. And from that moment, there is no limit on Jewish immigration into Palestine.
This reversal coincided with events elsewhere that would supercharge the conflict. In 1933, Adolf Hitler came to power in Germany and began instituting a wave of anti-Semitic policies. This sent shockwaves through the Jewish communities of Europe. However, for those seeking to flee, options were few, with most governments maintaining strict limits on Jewish immigration. For many Jews, Zionist or not, travelling to Palestine became the only option. By 1936, the Jewish contingent inside mandatory Palestine had doubled to 28% of the population. Now tensions began to escalate at an alarming rate. What began as a general strike among Palestinian Arabs in 1936 devolved into violent attacks on Jewish settlements and British military installations. This event became known as the Great Revolt.
From this point, really, you can see Palestinian Arab nationalism as opposed to pan-Arab nationalism. They're fighting against an issue, that Jewish homeland and British control in the region, that no other mandate or any other has to fight against. And they want their own Palestinian state, an independent country, free from British control.
The British response was to crush the revolt as quickly as possible with overwhelming strength. They brought a surge of new troops, more men than were serving in India at the time, and declared martial law in 1937. Favouring tactics of collective punishment, they destroyed homes and burned villages to the ground. They used aerial bombing even on urban areas and arrested, killed or exiled Arab leaders, fracturing their movement.
In addition, the British used Jewish auxiliary units to fight the Arabs during the revolt. But this is a real turnaround from 1921, when they disband the Jewish Legion. Now, in 1936-37, the British are so overstretched that they really don't care. They just need boots on the ground to sort this situation out and to end this revolt as quickly as possible. So by the end of the Arab revolt, 17% of the Arab male population are either killed, wounded, imprisoned or exiled. This really weakens the Arab cause in Palestine, just at the moment when the Jewish population is getting more and more power.
Well,
so basically, money.
Yep. As always, and trying to keep us in war.
Trying to keep us in war, but it was a way for the British to ensure their victory against the Ottomans. That essentially that they needed Zionists from the States in order to help financially back them, in essentially to help them win the war. So basically in exchange, it's like, we'll give you this if you help us out. So yeah, so the idea again, you know, that people are saying this happened since October 7th. No, you can argue even like it's been happening since the turn of the century, to be quite honest. So like, with all of this stuff is in place. So hence, this is why Balfour's portrait got destroyed in Cambridge, so he can get fucked. And he can especially get fucked because I found this from another YouTube video, I forgot where. I just pulled the screenshot of it. But I'm sure Balfour said this shortly after, the declaration, where he says, "In Palestine, we do not propose even to go through the form of consulting the wishes of the present inhabitants of the country. The four great powers," so that's Britain, France, America, and the Soviet Union, "are committed to Zionism. And Zionism, be it right or wrong, good or bad, is rooted in age-long traditions, in present needs, in future hopes, of far profounder import than the desires and prejudices of the 700,000 Arabs who now inhabit that ancient land." So basically, Balfour basically said, fuck the Arabs, the Zionists got this. So, I mean, what else does it say? Is just like a stereotypical imperialist who sold out the Arabs to gain control over an area of the world that essentially the British had no right to. And they essentially gave it away to Zionists for money.
Well, anything to finish up with, Rob, before we head to our last story for you, probably?
Yeah, I might miss the last story about the pier. So I'm going to just comment on that right now because it is pertinent to what we're talking about right now. Israel's function right now, and a lot of the motivation behind what they're actually doing in Gaza right now, while it is ideological, it is also monetary, financial. So what they're actually trying to do, and my theory, and I think a lot of people would agree with me, is that they're going to try to finish up the Ben Gurion Canal, which goes through northern Gaza.
Which we talked about it, Reef, right?
Yeah.
Good moment.
The Ben Gurion Canal, for people that don't know, is it's right next to the Suez Canal, which is in Egypt. So the idea is that Israel wants to become players when it comes to maritime trade routes, and they want to create a competitor to the Suez Canal, which goes right through northern Gaza. And some of the original plans for this were to detonate 50 to 100 nuclear bombs to actually create the canal.
Yep.
Yeah, it's crazy.
We
So
gave
they're
them the
actually
idea,
pretty close to
by the
getting
way.
it done. And if you're asking yourself what the cherry on top for the Zionists are monetarily for this, it's not just the creation of this canal, which is going to make them billions of dollars, and it will effectively make them well, it'll sort of make them maritime superstars as long as until Yemen stops blocking the Bab el-Mandeb Canal south of that. But that's neither here nor there. The other thing is that they have $600 billion worth of liquefied natural gas off of the coast of Gaza, which they also want to have access to. So the pier, my theory is, and I think everyone can agree this is an option at least, is that pier that they're going to build for humanitarian purposes is likely going to start out being some sort of like, they'll spin it as it's some sort of we're only going to put it in it's going to be there for a couple of days or a couple of months or a couple of years, but then it'll actually turn into a hub for stealing all the liquefied natural gas off of the coast of Gaza and then transporting it from this pier, which will likely become a dock or some sort of place where they can actually pump the liquefied natural gas, and then they'll run it right through the Ben Gurion Canal into the Red Sea. So we're going to see, I think that pier is likely some sort of like, they're laying the groundwork for actually stealing all of the Palestinians' liquefied natural gas resources.
I mean, Reef, didn't I say on Twitter, and I tagged you, like when they mentioned about this port, I was like, sounds like they're trying to build a Ben Gurion Canal to me. And again, we talked about the Ben Gurion Canal extensively here. So it makes complete sense, that all of this is motivated by money. All of this is motivated by ripping Palestine off of their natural resources to the displacement and genocide of people who have been living there somewhat peacefully for centuries. And that's what mainstream media is not going to tell you. And that's why, again, going back to our original segment, we're going to be in trouble because we actually do report on this stuff and we have a reason to report on this stuff, and the Zionists are not going to like it.
Which is why they demonetize us, which, speaking of monies, you can give it to us this way at co-v.com/indie news network. Just scan that QR code. You know, if you're in the live chat, you can put !donate and it'll give you that link. You know, fun stuff may happen if you do that. So, also, if you can't give us monies, do some of this. Like and subscribe, share, leave a comment. You know, help us get to 2K. We're getting there. Let us know what number you got. You know? All right. We're gonna head to the next one soon. I'm doing that. Doesn't seem to be popping tonight. But wanted to get to this story before we let go of Rob so he can go take care of his hatchlings. You know, but Rob, you wanted to talk about this. Haitian cannibals. You know, who knew we would have cannibals back on, but maybe not. Maybe that's just PSYOP. So, this specifically is from the Daily Express, right? We're probably going to eviscerate this article here in a second. But Haiti violence sees police attacked with machetes as gangs wreak havoc in Port-au-Prince, right? Exclusive, a journalist in Haiti's capital tells Daily Express that gangs have been seen cutting police officers with machetes as they cry for help. Sounds like some bullshit to me. We've talked about Haiti before on this channel, Collin, have we not? And the U.S. involvement with that. So we're going to get to that in a second. But this article continues. A state of emergency has been declared in the country after gangs attacked 2 prisons, setting many criminals free. It is now thought that 80% of the Haitian capital is controlled by these gangs. Describing the violence in this country, a journalist on the ground told Daily Express US that cannibalism has been witnessed on the streets as the violence reaches unprecedented levels. Speaking anonymously, they said, Haiti is living in a total chaotic situation right now. It is total chaos everywhere, especially in the capital where I am right now. So, Haiti has a leader, Prime Minister Ariel Henry, who is not inside the country right now. In the meantime, you have gangs raging full attacks on key institutions. Haitian police have been attacked by gangs at police stations. You have attacks on the police stations. On February 28th, the police station was attacked. The officers were in there for 3 hours crying for help. And after that, we saw images of officers being cut by machetes being shared on social media. The gangs are heavily armed with guns from the U.S., but they are also equipped with high-level technology, like drones. So we're going to get into a bit why all that's bullshit. First, Dan Cohen, many leftists denounce Jimmy Cherizer because his weapons, we're going to get to that guy in a second, like all weapons in Haiti, come from the United States. Who would have thought? The Haitian revolutionaries who have been fighting alongside Simon Bolivar in Venezuela. Right, so Dan Cohen reminding you where those weapons are actually coming from. So here is Cherizer, right? This is a guy nicknamed Barbecue, and it's not because of the cannibalism. We're gonna get to that. But what might you think? You know, after watching these videos, you'll see why the U.S. might be upset with him. One of the most powerful gang leaders, right? Today we are taking the occasion to tell the international community to give Haiti a chance. Because what is happening in Haiti now, we Haitians have to decide who is going to lead the country and what model of government we want. We are going to figure out how to get Haiti out of the misery it is in now. If the international community continues on the road you are on now, it will plunge Haiti into further chaos. Any questions? Any questions for the boys and girls at home?
Sounds like a Mali situation.
Yep. So
in terms of people rising up
back to this
not dealing with the bullshit from
dumb
their
article. The level of violence is unprecedented. The gangs seemingly want to kill as many people as they can. They are in a fear campaign where they want to appear as murderous and as violent as possible. He continued, for instance, we have seen images of gang leaders eating people they have killed. We have seen images of people being tortured when they are kidnapped. It is senseless. The goal here is not just to ensure fear, but to paralyze people mentally. This is a message that Haiti is under the total control of gangs. So this is the big thing, right? This is the narrative that's going around, right? Here's the Daily Star. Haiti cannibal gang are eating people they've killed on the streets as violence erupt, which is, I think, caught your attention, correct, Rob?
Yes. Yep.
You write, so this headline article that a lot of atrocity propagandists are running with today about cannibal gangs was whacked through an AI tool to get written, according to the author. Why am I not surprised? Also, the piece only cites one anonymous journalist. Flimsy as fuck. Remember, we read that speaking anonymously bit, right? So, this is a big deal. Even Elon tweeted this shit earlier to millions. And another tweet from Elon to millions. Cannibal gangs is becoming a narrative. So, yeah. People like this guy, right? Dom Luker, who you should have suspicions about if you don't have already. He writes, breaking news, here's disturbing footage of the Haitian cannibal gang eating body parts of one of their victims as he cooks in the fire. The Haiti cannibal gang leader is named Barbecue and is now the most powerful man in Haiti, right? I've seen this nickname being used to actually call him a cannibal, right? His mother ran like a barbecue restaurant, pretty sure. So he's called Barbecue.
Not even a restaurant, just like a little kiosk on the street.
Right. Yeah. So Dan Cohen writes, this is absolutely not barbecue, aka Chimichurrizer, and has nothing to do with him. It's a video from years ago of gang members in the Arbonite Valley eating a burned victim's body in order to terrorize the population, and is a very rare occurrence. Despite media claims, there is a major propaganda push to demonize barbecue in order to pave the way for a foreign invasion. Dom Luker should delete this and check sources before promoting dangerous information. Watch my and Kim Iverson's documentary. No, not Iverson's. Kim Ives' documentary and learn the truth about barbecue and the uprising in Haiti. So here it is again. Breaking the cannibal gang leader Barbecue was spotted wearing his favorite necklace. Get prepared to witness a story that was already planned, get created in your face. So look at that. Look, he's got his little Freemason necklace. Dom is 100% committed to doing the dirty work of portraying Haiti's revolutionary leader as a subhuman savage so Biden can send in the troops to assassinate him. The bigger question is who is putting him up to it. Right, here's Dan again, replying, I have many Haitians promising my safety if I come to Haiti to report in person, so I'm not tricked by American propaganda. You N-words must be crazy. Right? Dan replies, I was reporting from Haiti 3 weeks ago. This hack pumps out lies from the safety of his own home about rampant cannibalism and gets upset when Haitians respond. Dum is a complete fraud. Who is pulling his strings? Dan asks once again. So, Daniel McAdams, who was recently on Misty's, dudes, Haitians eating other Haitians is a CIA psyop to justify a widening U.S. military operation. Biden is a full turd who desperately needs a military win. Anything. So he's going with this barbecue bullshit. Come on, man. Don't let them Fauci you again. This guy, Jake Shields. This is a current trend in Haiti where people are killing, barbecuing, and eating each other. At the same time, we have tens of thousands of Haitians crossing our southern border. Look at this border narrative bullshit again. Whitney Webb's going to want to tell you about that soon. Can someone make this make sense? Right? Dan Cohen, Jake Shields resisted Israeli propaganda, only promote the 40 beheaded baby style cannibalism lie to justify Biden's looming military invasion of Haiti. Even worse, it's 100% intentional. He ignores information showing the truth. Yep. Any questions?
No.
Well,
I could go on all day. I've been actually researching this quite a bit, actually.
Why are we
I'm actually
seeing-
going to do an hour-long video on it.
Why are we seeing a sudden disinformation campaign portraying barbecue as a cannibal? Watch how he treks through the slums of Haiti to ignite revolutionary consciousness among the masses, and you'll understand. Chorizo is trying to turn Haiti into a productive and prosperous country that benefits the whole population, the complete opposite of the dystopia the U.S. imperialism has created. The man they're spearing as a savage is leading a revolution. You want to hear some of that revolution he's talking about? Are you ready for a revolution? Here we go. Any of you speak Haitian? Haitian French? No? Maybe in the struggle to liberate this country. Oh, I missed it. Maybe in the struggle to liberate this country, people say we talk too much. And then it's time for us to take action. We're not fighting in a hot-headed way. We know the struggle we're undertaking. We know where we want to get in our struggle. That's why we tell people, wait for the signal. Wait for the revolutionary forces of the G9. That's why every time we tell people onward, they should follow us because the struggle we're engaged in is for them. Maybe people don't yet come out when we tell them to. That's because they've made people think we are bandits and gangs. That's why we tell the people onward. They're a little reluctant. We're engaged in an ideological struggle. We're showing people the reality. When the people are ready, when we tell them onward, they'll follow us.
While the political class jockeys for position in hotel conference rooms, Chorizier spends his days trekking through the slums to convince people that change is possible, what he calls the mental revolution. This process, he says, is a necessary precursor to armed struggle.
Réalité a son façon pour nous pas jamais révolter contre eux et puis nous même pour nous arrêter dans misère nous.
They're not bandits.
You know what? Go back. Hold on. Please pause. Go back and read that part for people who are just listening.
Can do.
And I'll give you some context when we get done with it.
Cool. Hold on. Like right
struggle
here. You have to understand that when they call us gangs and bandits, it's not true. The reality is that when you to never revolt against them, they want you to never revolt against them, so you will remain in your misery. These guns are not to kill or hurt you. These guns are not to rape you, they are to protect you. But when we tell you onward, aren't you hungry? When I say let's go get food, let's go get food. And anybody who tries to prevent you from getting that food, they might kill 10 or 20 of us. But we have to overcome them to get the food. They might have armored cars to prevent us from getting the food. Those armored cars might kill 20 or 30 of us. Today, they're turned us into a cowardly people afraid of dying. It's fear of death that has put us in misery. We can't be afraid of dying. We had to advance on them because we can't go on living like this. I mean, sounds like he's hungry, you know? So
yeah, for revolution.
And we're going to get to why they're hungry. So U.S. rice exported to Haiti could cause cancer and other illnesses. According to a new medical review, it contains high levels of arsenic, a toxic metalloid. It's a bitter irony, literally bitter, as Washington's disruptive policies towards the island nation turned the latter from a net food exporter to one that imports 80% of its staple food, rice. Haitian farmers went bust as American ones only got richer. Who would have thought? Who would have thought that's how it worked? I'll let Africa Stream explain a little more.
Haiti has been made dependent on the US for its food, and Uncle Sam is sending it cheap rice that is likely to cause cancer. With a population of 11 million, mostly African descendant people, Haiti is America's second biggest purchaser of rice. A medical review by the University of Michigan and Community Organization for Haitian Agriculture has found that US exported rice to Haiti contains unhealthy levels of arsenic and cadmium, which increases the risk of various forms of cancer, heart disease, diabetes, and other illnesses. So, after destroying the Caribbean nation's capacity to produce one of its most staple crops, that is, rice, and much of its own food, the same USA is stepping in as the savior of Haitian hunger. However, what usually flies under the radar is that most American farmers that export their products to the island enjoy fat US government subsidies. thus pricing local Haitian rice farmers out of the market. Here is former president and for some reason UN Special Envoy to Haiti, Bill Clinton, admitting to his role in creating this toxic level of dependency.
Since 1981, the United States has followed a policy that we rich countries that produce a lot of food should sell it to poor countries and relieve them of the burden of producing their own food. It was a mistake. It was a mistake that I was a party to. I am not pointing the finger at anybody. I did that. I have to live every day with the consequences of the lost capacity to produce a rice crop in Haiti to feed those people.
As recently as the 1970s, Haiti was self-sufficient in rice production and was a significant food exporter. However, fast forward to 2024 and the Caribbean nation imports 80% of its rice, virtually locked into a cycle of dependency on the US farming industry. It has left the islanders vulnerable to not only food insecurity, but even food unfit for human consumption. This is the result of American foreign policy, food dependency, with the usual involvement of the IMF and the World Bank. The US heavily subsidizes its farming sector, providing $2 billion to rice growers between 1995 and 2011. Meanwhile, institutions like the IMF discourage such practices in the Global South as a condition for loans. As part of their structural adjustment arsenal, the IMF further pushes Global South countries to open their markets to international exporters. For Haiti, this means local rice producers have no chance to compete with big US rice growers, mainly those in Clinton's home state of Arkansas. The former president also forced the Haitian government to drastically reduce tariffs on American rice from 50% to a dismal 3%, making 1 ton of Haitian rice $300 more expensive than American rice. Many question the existence of organizations like the African Union when faced with such blatant oppression against our kith and kin in the diaspora. Today, as Haiti's economic crisis deepens and insecurity broadens as a result, much talk is being made about deploying an armed Kenyan force to the Caribbean nation, while the African Union remains silent on the core issues. The forced payment of billions of dollars to France for waging a revolution that obtained their freedom and independence from slavery, the looting of Haiti's gold by the US, and countless regime change operations and occupations are never addressed as reasons for past and the current crisis on the small Caribbean island. Where, oh where, is the united voice of African leaders opposing what appears to be yet another imminent invasion of Haiti? What are they doing to help our brothers from being occupied again and fed poison by American imperialism?
Good question.
Answer. Answer. It's our puppets that are placed in African countries that are working on behalf of the West. That's why they're quiet.
Yeah.
That's Ariel Henry, who just resigned, according to Ghana. He was the prime minister that took over after Jovenel Moise was killed, assassinated, allegedly by the CIA in 2021. Yeah. I gotta go. I got like 5% left on my laptop.
Cool.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Give me 1 second though. Before my laptop dies, I'm gonna cover 2 things.
Yep.
The first is that Jimmy Cherizier, to give you context, he is not a gang leader. He's an ex-cop. And he left the police force because of immense corruption. And he decided to create his own revolution by uniting a lot of the gangs that he used to enforce laws against and try to get them to become a sort of community building protection militia. So they protect their, wherever these gangs that he's united into the G9, they protect their neighborhoods from the gang violence that is rampant in Haiti. And they actually do things like trash removal and food delivery, and they do a whole bunch of other things like repair of buildings and stuff like that. So a lot of the neighborhoods that the G9 are in are actually very well cleaned up and look different than the one in that video that they showed. So that's why they fear him, is because he united the proletariat in his country that was the gangs with all the guns, got them to put everything aside to go after the capitalist class. So that's why they're gunning for him. Mm-hmm. The second thing is, this always has to do with resources as well. The reason that they want to go in there is twofold, not just to take out Cherizier and to stifle this popular uprising, which he may be the most popular person in Haiti right now. He could probably run for office and be the next prime minister if he wanted to. The second thing is, Haiti also has liquefied natural gas and oil reserves that make Venezuela look like nothing. Haiti has 10 orders of magnitude more liquefied natural gas and oil than Venezuela does. So it would help us, or the United States sees that and they see it like the oil fields in Syria. Let's go in and take over those oil fields, same as they're doing in Gaza with the pier. And that's what they want to do. Also, Haiti has a very large gold reserve, over $20 billion. So that's the long and short of it. I wish I could go longer, but I only got 3% left on my laptop before it dies.
Good.
But they really want to go after Cherizier. They're going to try to smear him. And that's where this Cannibal story came from the Daily Express, which is a UK rag. Yeah. And then it got picked up by Elon Musk and a bunch of these other people like Jake Shields. The whole Cannibal gangs thing came from the Daily Star, which was the second article that cites the original article. But you notice there's a difference between the two articles. The first article from the Daily Express doesn't mention cannibalism in the streets. They went with the second article, the one that I showed you because the author admitted it, that was written with an AI tool.
Gotcha.
It has cannibalism in the streets and cannibal gangs in the title. So, of course, they go with that one to try to manufacture consent. It's the next 40 beheaded babies. It's the next Hamas mass rape thing. They ran out with it without double checking. And then you do people like Jake Shields into it because he doesn't know any better and he's not checking it. Elon Musk runs out there and gets 18 million views with that tweet using the Daily Star article mentioning cannibalism. That's how narratives are born, and that's how consent is manufactured for intervening in Haiti. Why? Because they want to stifle the popular uprising from Jimmy Cherizier, and they want to take the oil, the natural gas, and the gold. And there's other things, like iridium is another one of their exports, which I'm not sure what that's actually used for, but I bet you it's valuable to people like Elon Musk. So anyway, I'm going to lose you here. Thanks for having me. Sorry I can't stay to the end, but yeah, I'm gonna actually do my own video on the whole Haiti thing. It's all completely bogus. I actually talked to Dan. He's writing an article right now, and if he leaves anything out, I'll piggyback sort of the way that Zay Squirrel did with the Gray Zone and Mondo Weiss and Electronic Intifada with the Hamas mass rape hoax. We're gonna follow this down. I want to see exactly why they're doing this.
Send it to us.
Right. So
when you're done,
and just
we'll
in
try to
case
link it.
people want, where can people follow you, Rob, before you go?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter, Real Rob Durden, and mostly, especially this next season that I'm going to do, season 5 of PFC Political Fight Club is going to be on Rumble. I don't use Rockfin or YouTube very much anymore. I'm moving almost exclusively to Rumble now.
Yeah.
Cool. We'll make sure to link that
Robbie,
stuff. So appreciate you coming.
You.
We'll be right back to finish up this
story.
Yeah,
man. It's fun hanging out. It's been too long, boys. Good seeing you.
You too. Peace. You want to head to Discord real quick, Collin? You can do that.
Sure.
Here, I'll go here while people wait. They can see me for a bit. And then look at Discord. Quack. Let's pop this out and in the Zoom. Cool. Hopefully everyone can hang tight for a few seconds while we get this prepared. And throw Discord up here. And then go back here. Press the button. Look at that. Look at that. We did it. We're back. Yep. So, just to finish this up, Cherizier is the most, and this is that shitty article again. Cherizier is the most influential gang leader, right? Following the interview, the journalist said via message, cannibalism is not widespread, but definitely an indication of the worsening situation, right? So, Barbecue is a former police officer turned gang leader who recently said, "We have chosen to take our destiny in our own hands. The battle we are waging will not only topple Ariel's government, it is a battle that will change the whole system." Henry is an unpopular acting prime minister of Haiti who has been criticized for failing to quell the gangs. He was never elected into his role and is now losing the trust of the country's population. Right? I love this use of gangs when they control 80%. I love how that's, Anyway, Henry left the country last week and his whereabouts now remain unclear. So Cherizer has threatened to take power in Haiti. Oh, God forbid. On whether this could happen, the Haitian journalist told Daily Express, this anonymous one, I don't know if he can take control of the country, but what we know is he is highly influential. He's probably the highest profile gang member in Haiti. He and other gang members have the goal of taking over the country and removing the prime minister from power, this anonymous source says. It remains unclear how they could do that, but they have attacked several key institutions, again, this anonymous source says. On Sunday, Haitian gangs tried to seize control of Toussaint Louverture International Airport in Port-au-Prince. The Haitian journalists believe this is evidence that the gangs will try and kill the prime minister if they get a chance. He said, the prime minister is not respected by people here. He was not elected. He was put into power with the help of the international community, including the U.S., and was supposed to hold an election, but he didn't. The national airport was surrounded by gangs on Monday, and the small police station nearby was burned down. We have heard reports of shooting in the area. This is proof that the goal is to shoot down any plane that could be carrying Henry back to the country. They might attempt to take his life. So, at Helena Villa RT writes, this is Jimmy Cherizer, aka Barbecue. There are gangs and truly bloodthirsty leaders in Haiti, but the U.S., the Western media, and their influencers have been focused only on him for months. The reason is simple. He's the only one capable of leading a revolution. You want to hear why, Collin?
Yes, please.
Hold on. Let me turn it down so I can speak for him. Come on. Oh, I know what I can do. Full screenies. Pretty please. There we go. So let's look at the two Haitis. One on top and one on bottom, right? These people will keep us in slavery for 10 or 20 more years. So their children will be the ministers, director generals, presidents, senators, and big entrepreneurs. Meanwhile, we still have nothing. They still need us to go burn tires and do violent demonstrations for them. That's the mental revolution that must precede the armed revolution, which is revolutionary forces that G9 will do, which scares them and makes them call us bandits. It's time to make a difference between gangs, bandits, and people making revolution. With raucous applause, he is met with.
Yeah.
So, I think we're just about finishing up. So, Misty says, hands off Haiti. We've done enough damage. In fact, we have a couple of things called Hands Off Haiti on the channel you can go find. But there's this guy, Collin. This might be one of the reasons why we're doing stuff.
If Haiti,
right.
God-awful thing to say, if Haiti just quietly sunk into the Caribbean or rose up 300 feet, it wouldn't matter a whole lot in terms of our...
That's a lie, obviously.
Yep. I mean, if the land sunk into the sea, they want what's underneath the land, so they're good. You know? Right. So, which we'll get to in our last story this evening, but, you know, speaking of resources, we could use some. You can donate to us at ko-fi.com/IndieNewsNetwork or scan that QR code. If you're in the live chat, you can put !donate to get that same link for you. And if you can't give us monies, we appreciate this kind of support by liking and subscribing. And, you know, sharing. That also helps us. Leave a comment. Let us know what number you got when you hit subscribe. Cool. We're almost ready for our next story. Once I go check Rockfin and Rumble. Anna Mayers here. Love you. Just sick as shit on the Rockfin. I'm sorry, Anna. Hopefully you feel better soon. I'm going to leave our Rockfins and Rumbles in the chat for people so they can go there if they wish, or if this stream gets taken down for some reason, you can find it there. Cool. Ready for our next one?
Don't put that on the universe, please.
I feel you. Cool.
So this story might make y'all mad. It made me mad a little bit when I prepped this. Reef knows. So we're gonna do another deep dive. This is with the help of Mint Press. With I wouldn't say friend, but we've read a few of her articles before.
Jessica Boxbaum.
Yeah, Boxbaum, who writes, "Globetrotting for genocide, foreign fighters from U.S., France, and India are fighting Israel's war in Gaza." So if you just thought it's just Israelis who are fighting the assault in Gaza, no, they're actively recruiting people from other countries. We've seen this on Twitter anyway. You probably would have made that connection, but we're going to get more into this situation here and why you should be mad. But anyway, Jessica writes, Israelis aren't the only demographic among the IDF forces in Gaza. Foreign fighters from as far away as the United States, France, Spain, the Netherlands, and even India actively participate in the hostilities. While the exact number of internationals fighting Gaza isn't known, what is known is that citizens from numerous countries appear to be at least complicit in what has been called a genocide. Under Israel's law of return, any individual with at least one Jewish grandparent or spouse can obtain Israeli citizenship. In this regard, many born abroad can serve in Israel's military while still keeping their birth's nationality. They often immigrate and then serve in the army. See, I have a huge problem with this. Now, given as a person who has multi-citizenship, I have 3 passports.
Yeah.
The idea, well, I could say this for me, if I were to ever run for Congress, that would be an issue. For me having those 3.
Yeah.
For me having those 3 passports. So,
because
that would be
members
seen
of Congress
correctly as a conflict of interest. But
members
yeah,
of Congress
for
are more
Israel,
than willing to walk in IDF uniform, and that's not an issue.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But as an Israeli, if you're like, well, if you're an American, let's say, and you happen to have dual citizenship, it's okay for you to fight in Israel's army. See, that's where I have the issue with that. So what's with the exceptionalism of Israel that if you have ties to Israel that you're able to do that, but me, since I have multi-citizenship, I can't run for Congress here.
Right.
Or if I were to be in the army, which I never will,
yeah,
I would think essentially have to denounce the 2 passports I have in order to fight in the U.S. Army. That makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
Anyway, currently, 45% of the Israelis' army lone soldiers, those who serve but don't have family in Israel, are new immigrants. The current lone soldier program has troops from over 60 countries, with approximately 35% from the U.S. It's important to note, though, that individuals part of Israel's lone soldier program are not considered mercenaries, who are professionals hired by a country's government to fight in its war and aren't citizens of said country. To widen the recruitment pool, the Israeli military now accepts great-grandchildren of Jews to join. While they aren't eligible to become Israeli citizens under the law of return, they can serve in the Israeli army. Not sure why they want to do that, but another route is volunteering in Israel's Mahal program, which permits Jewish youth from other countries to join the army without becoming citizens. There are currently 500 Mahal volunteers in Israel's military. Most mercenaries fighting for Israel now are welcomed based on their religious affiliations and dual citizenships, making their accountability pretty complex. Mustafa Fattori, a Libyan journalist and analyst, told Mint Press News. Many countries whose citizens are fighting for Israel, including the USA, have laws criminalizing such actions, but it's not a straightforward issue when the dual citizenship is factored in. Fattori expanded on this, writing in the Middle East Monitor that America's Neutrality Act, dating back to the founding days of the U.S., makes it illegal for any American citizen to take part in any foreign war or establish a militia for that purpose. He noted the legislation, however, hasn't been reinforced lately, as hundreds of Americans have participated in wars in Ukraine in Libya in 2011,
including
and now in Gaza.
Including RFK's son, who served in Ukraine. In case you were wondering. But yeah, plenty of doing that, and I'm sure going to get to members of the Ukrainian army serving in Israel, right? So
the Israeli military also opens recruits nationals of other countries. For instance, the Israeli consulate in Toronto, Canada, has advertised appointments with its military representative for those wishing to join the military. The consulate website said, young people who wish to enlist in the IDF or anyone who has not fulfilled their obligations according to the Israeli Defense Service law are invited to meet with him. Organizations like Nefesh B'Nefesh, which encourages Jewish immigration to Israel from North America, have hosted events on joining the Israeli military. Sa'el, National Project for Volunteers for Israel, recruits Jewish and non-Jewish internationals to assist Israeli military efforts on army bases, such as packing food and medical supplies. In November, the Spanish newspaper El Mundo revealed that Spanish mercenary Pedro Diaz Flores is now fighting for Israel, having previously fought in Ukraine with the neo-Nazi Azov Brigade.
Yep.
Azov. So I came for economy for money. They pay very well, they offer good equipment, and the work is calm. It is 3,900 euros, $4,187 per week. Complimentary missions aside, Flores told El Mundo.
Collin, how much do you make a week being a teacher?
I have to figure this out. Less than that.
Yeah.
Less than that. To be completely transparent, I make after taxes $1,500 a week.
So literally 4 times what you make as a, preschool teacher. Very important job. Like for them to go kill who you might teach,
Right.
Like kids you might teach, they're killing for 4 times the amount you make. So you can either teach them, Collin, or you can kill them and make more money. That's right. Yeah. Okay.
I'm in the wrong profession. Anyway.
Apparently.
Well, not really, because I wouldn't want to do this anyway. But still, the idea that I get paid less to do, I would argue, more meaningful work versus fight in war.
Yeah.
But while pictured next to a border checkpoint with the Gaza Strip, he told the newspaper he's working in the occupied Syrian Golan Heights, saying, "We only provide security support to arms convoys or the troops of the Israeli armed forces that are in the Gaza Strip. We do not fight Hamas directly, nor are we involved in assault operations. We are in charge of the security of the checkpoints and access control on the borders of Gaza and Jordan. There are many PMCs, private military companies here, and they share the work. Traditionally, they have guarded border terminals between Elliot and Aqaba."
Yeah.
Yeah. He added. He told the newspaper he was recruited by Raven and Global CST. Information on Raven isn't available online. Minpress News reached out to Global CST to verify Flores' contract. Global CST said it doesn't know Flores and that Global CST holds no security or military activities of any type or form, not in Israel, not in Gaza, and not in any other territory worldwide. Sure.
So it wasn't me. They're taking the Shaggy defense.
Right.
Got it.
Right.
Even
Global
though they
CST
come red-handed.
Do we have that on the soundboard?
I can get it.
Yeah.
I can add that.
That's probably something worth. That's probably somewhat worthwhile one to have.
Yeah.
Anyway, Global CST told Minpress News it's a renewable energy company and denied reports it's providing defense and security services to governments and other organizations. On LinkedIn, Global CST is described as offering strategic consulting and project integration management. The website listed on Global CST's LinkedIn is currently down. When asked for a website, Global CST directed Minpress to Global Group's website, which promotes agricultural projects worldwide. The LinkedIn profile of the firm's founder, Israel Ziv, a retired Israeli general, details Global CST as an Israeli-based security consultancy group, which has built a vast and unique track record in various continents around the globe, such as South Africa, Eastern Europe, and Africa. Global CST confirmed to Minpress Ziv is its founder. The company, which also operates under the name Global NTM, was established in 2006 and remains active. In 2018, the U.S. government imposed sanctions on Global CST and Ziv for allegedly supplying weapons to South Sudan. The U.S. Treasury Department said Ziv used an agricultural company as a cover for the sale of approximately $150 million worth of weapons to the government, including rifles, grenade launchers, and shoulder-fired rockets.
Yep.
Israel and its weapons, man.
They love them. I mean, there's tons of contractors over there.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere around the world. Like, all over the fucking place.
Yep.
The U.S. also said Ziv planned to organize attacks by mercenaries on South Sudanese oil fields and infrastructure in an effort to create a problem that only his company and affiliates can solve. The U.S. lifted its sanctions on Ziv and his company in 2020 without an explanation. Gee, I wonder why. Since El Mundo's publication, reports have also emerged of other nationalities involved in a more direct capacity with Israel's assault on Gaza. Footage has surfaced of Israeli soldiers speaking with American accents or with American flag patches on their uniforms.
Yep.
According to the U.S. State Department, 21 American citizens who are members of the Israeli military have been killed in Gaza since the war began. Canadian media has reported its own nationals are volunteering with the Israeli army and are motivated to serve in Gaza. Why? And the British newspaper The Guardian reported British nationals have been killed in Gaza while fighting for Israel. Britons are also arriving in droves to volunteer with the military, like doctors and university chaplains.
Yeah.
Around 100 British citizens are currently part of Israel's military.
Well, and then what they do is they'll bring these guys back, right? Like the ones that stay alive. You know, they did this in Ukraine. I see them now doing this with Israeli mercenaries, essentially, is what these people are. You know, they're like Blackwater Group used to be in Afghanistan and Iraq, right? They bring them back, right, and have them shake hands again with new military recruits, and, you know, they go on other military channels and stuff like that. Ex-military gun guys, all that stuff, right? Police officers, all that jazz. And it's this us versus them mentality they give military personnel, right? You know, and they are just going to add Palestinians as another them and anyone who supports them. So that's what this is. You know, same thing with Russians in Ukraine and, you know, brown people in Afghanistan, and like this is how that works. It's just indoctrination, propaganda, brainwashing. Plus they get free bodies, so they'll take that.
Yeah.
You know. So
in December, Al Jazeera reported 7 Ukrainian mercenaries were reportedly killed near Gaza City while fighting alongside Israeli forces. This news came as images of Israeli soldiers speaking Ukrainian circulated on social media.
Yep.
The Ukrainian government denies its citizens are fighting in Gaza, however. We did not send any soldiers to the Gaza Strip or any other region of the world, Ukrainian Foreign Ministry spokesman told Al Jazeera. The footage that shows people speaking Ukrainian in the Gaza Strip may be Israelis of Ukrainian or Slavic origins who have no connection to the state, the spokesman added. According to Australian journalist C.J. Whirlman, Israeli soldiers of Indian origin are also fighting in Gaza. The Indian Foreign Ministry did not respond to inquiries on whether its citizens are fighting in Gaza. In December, ICAD, an Arabic open source platform, revealed Foreign Observations Group as an American mercenary company fighting alongside Israeli forces in Gaza. Close examination of Forward Observations Group Instagram account suggests the group has been cooperating with the Israeli army since October, first stationed around the Gaza border and then located within the enclave by the end of November. The last image on this account from Gaza is dated January 16th. Another post dated January 11th depicts camera footage of Israeli soldiers fighting in Gaza. It is captioned, helmet cam footage of a LOTRA Special Forces team leader we embedded with shortly after the after the October 7th attack.
Yeah.
A recent Instagram story from Forward Observations shows a soldier in a hospital bed draped with Forward Observations flag. An Israeli flag hangs on the wall next to him,
yep,
which you can see right here.
Okay.
ICAD discovered the company was founded in October 2018, and while billing itself as a military gear shop, it currently only has one item in stock, a first aid bag. Forward Observations was registered as a foreign limited liability company in Nevada on October 15, 2020, and remains active. Derek Bates, a former U.S. infantry soldier who fought in Afghanistan, founded the company. A Forward Observations Instagram post on November 9, 2023, confirmed Bales as the company's former director and revealed his official Instagram is under the name Raul Duke. In February, Bales responded to ICAD's investigation with a photo from Gaza on his Instagram account, writing, "At ICAD Facts, here's some more pictures for your article." According to Foreign Policy, Forward Observations traveled to Ukraine to source medical supplies, gear, and money for Ukrainian soldiers. Bales has been criticized for associating with Vadim Lavlev, a member of the far-right Azov battalion. He apologized for his connections to Bavev, but said the brigade isn't as radical as alleged. Yet ICAD found otherwise. For instance, ICAD's thorough scrutiny of Levev's social media accounts found photos of Levev giving a Nazi salute, holding a sign featuring a swastika, and wearing a necklace with the infamous Nazi symbol as well.
Of course.
Forward Observations did not respond to Mint-Press's inquiries to verify if its personnel are indeed in Gaza and what it's doing there.
There are no Nazis in Ba Sing Se, pretty much.
Amid the revelations that citizens of other countries may be participating in Israel's genocide on Gaza, some governments and activists are taking a stand. In December, South Africa announced it might prosecute or even strip the citizenship of South African nationals who have joined the Israeli army and are fighting in Gaza. Actually, I'm hearing this today.
Yeah.
In regards to this, this is what South Africa is saying. The South African government is gravely concerned by reports that some African citizens and permanent residents have joined or are considering joining the IDF in the war in Gaza and the other occupied Palestinian territories, the State Department of International Relations and Cooperation said. Also in December, French parliamentary member Thomas Porte sent a letter to France's Justice Minister Eric Dupond-Moretti requesting he investigate around 4,000 French citizens fighting with Israeli forces on the front lines in Gaza. The March 30th movement, a European pro-Palestine group founded in November, has already filed 7 complaints against Dutch Israelis currently serving in the Israeli army in Gaza. They have also filed complaints against Israeli soldiers who traveled to the Netherlands to protest the International Court of Justice proceedings and a French-Israeli soldier who is also in the Netherlands. While these soldiers don't have Dutch nationality, they can be investigated because they were on Dutch soil, the March 30th movement told Mint Press News. The group is also submitting a case in Belgium and other cases against French nationals.
Okay.
They posted themselves on Instagram or on TikTok standing on the rubbles of a house in Gaza saying, "We want to wipe out Amalek from under the sky, and we want to kill them all. Diab Abu Jahad, president of the March 30th movement, told Min's Press News. Amalek refers to the Israelis' rival in the Hebrew Bible and was invoked by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu when calling to attack Gaza. Abdul Jahar added, they think they are above the reach of justice. Maybe if they were only Israeli, but if they are Belgian, we're going to make sure that we take them to court.
Good for them. Oh, too far. There you go. Look,
any thoughts?
Well, I mean, I feel like I said most of my thoughts, you know. This is definitely par for the course. You know, you see this a lot with a lot of these wars. There's a lot of like American mercenaries, UK mercenaries, you know, expats, ex-military guys who have nothing else better to do. Ex-Navy SEALs I know have been going to Ukraine and stuff, like, you know, pretty much guns for hire, right?
Yeah.
You know, so, and now this also has religious stuff on top of that helps this out. So, but yeah, I mean, $4,000 a week is a paycheck. So if you survive, you know, which when you're only killing
right
people with rocks and whatever, you know, like, I heard a lot of them were really unhappy with what was going on in Ukraine when they went over and then they left, because like they were not winning. So, but you know, you're going to see Israel and I'm sure Taiwan next, will have this happen.
Yeah.
So, you know, proxy wars at their finest. But yeah, which, you know, is why we're probably, you know, one of the reasons we're demonetized talking about this, right? So, you know, you can give us money in other ways though at ko-fi.com/Indie News Network or by scanning the QR code you see there. If you can't support us financially, we appreciate you supporting us in other ways by liking and subbing and sharing. You know, leave a comment. Let us know what number you got when you hit subscribe. We're trying to get to 2K. We're almost there, right? 1.86, something like that.
Well, almost 1.86.
Okay.
4 away from 1.86.
Cool. So we're that number's going up. Appreciate you, fam, if you're doing that. But you ready for our last story while I go check Rockfin and Rumble?
Yes.
Cool.
Yes, sir.
If I can actually put that in the chat for people. There's Rumble. There's Rockfin. You can also support us there with Super Rays or Rumble Rants. Anna Mayor's replying to us, hoping she felt better. Aw, thank you. It seems to suck more the older we get. And if you're on Rumble, make sure you leave a comment or type in the chat. Let us know you're a lizard person over there. You know? Like, members of the Illuminati aren't going to say anything. You got to tell us. Otherwise, it's entrapment. That's how it works. But speaking of entrapments, this port, Collin, in Gaza, did you hear about this? This is at the State of the Union, right? The Joe Biden, right? This asshat said this.
The United States has been leading international efforts to get more humanitarian assistance to Gaza.
The United States besides Gaza. Okay?
Tonight, I'm directing the U.S. military to lead an emergency mission to establish a temporary pier in the Mediterranean on the coast of Gaza that can receive large shipments carrying food, water, medicine, and temporary shelters. No U.S. boots will be on the ground. A temporary pier will enable a massive increase in the amount of humanitarian assistance getting into Gaza every day.
It's the only way.
And Israel must do its part.
To pay for it.
Israel must allow more aid into Gaza to ensure humanitarian workers aren't caught in the crossfire. You know the thing.
The idea of ceasefire and humanitarian aid have been co-opted.
Yep. Yeah. And partially because we've been demanding it. That's the only reason why.
Partially because right, but here's the problem though. Like, and I've said this, I'm all for the ceasefire, but that's not the in of itself going to solve the problem.
No, we've covered
the
that.
issue that I have with is Zionism. That's what needs to be called out. That is what
give Palestinians their country back and let them have a free place to live, like, you know, so that they're not going to die. Like it's a ceasefire involves that, you know, there might start shooting again at some point. Like, so yeah, it's not great. But speaking of aid being co-opted, Jake Johnson over there at Common Dreams writes, starving children in Gaza cannot wait weeks for U.S. port, aid group says. They are already dying from malnutrition. Saving their lives is a matter of hours or days, and Jason Lee of Save the Children. So, leading humanitarian group said Friday that starving people in Gaza, including more than 1 million children, are in need of immediate aid and can't afford to wait for the U.S. military to construct a port on the enclave's coast, a project that expected to take weeks. Children in Gaza cannot wait to eat, said Jason Lee, country director for Save the Children in the occupied Palestinian territory. They are already dying from malnutrition, and saving their lives is a matter of hours or days. At least 17 children have starved to death in Gaza, according to Defense for Children International. I'm sure that's a conservative number. Palestine and many more are currently struggling to survive. Condemning Israel's obstruction of ground-based aid deliveries as a grave violation against children and international law, Lee stressed Friday that there is already a tried and tested system in place to effectively coordinate aid that they're stopping, Collin.
Right.
Okay. But trucks of food and medicine that could save lives are waiting at crossings while children are starving just miles away while Israelis are raving near those trucks. Right? Isn't that what's happening? Lee continued, airdrops with no on-the-ground coordination of who it reaches and maritime corridors like the one announced yesterday are no solutions to keep children alive. Neither are substitutes for unimpeded humanitarian assistance via the established land routes. Right?
And I'm not sure if Drake mentions this, but just kind of doing some like stuff online, the airdrops, you know, that happened, I think, over a week ago. Number one, extremely expensive.
Yeah.
Big thing. Expensive. Number two, they killed people. Well, actually, like
landing.
The actual act of them dropping it. And then number three, expired. Right. A lot of it was expired. And then number four, when Palestinians tried to get the food en masse, the IDF shoots them.
Well, same thing with the trucks, right? The trucks came in and they were literally used as like salt licks for humans.
Right. So the idea that Biden is building, I mean, this is kind of typical of the US to spend way too much money for shit results, basically. So it's on par the course for us. But, you know, the idea that they're willing to build this port, which again is going to take weeks versus actually doing like strategic ground deliveries, which is cheaper and much more effective at providing that the IDF doesn't do shit. You know, it kind of just leads to the asinine way that we're trying to make, try to make do with people like in the belief, oh, we're actually trying to do something when they're really not. And shout out to Chris Legion, friend in the network, who said they use the aid as bait. As bait, but also as a way to try to appease us to think that something is actually happening.
Which is, and we're going to get to what it's really about here in a minute, but U.S. President Joseph Biden announced during his State of the Union address Thursday night that he has directed the nation's military to lead an emergency mission to establish a temporary pier in the Mediterranean on the coast of Gaza, right? The president also said Israel, whose military is armed to the teeth with U.S. weaponry, must do its part by allowing more aid into Gaza, but did not threaten any consequences if the Netanyahu government refuses. Israel needs to facilitate rather than block the flow of supplies. This is not a logistics problem. It is a political problem. Ground deliveries in Gaza have plummeted in recent weeks as Israeli forces have attacked aid convoys and prevented trucks from entering and moving through the territory. A World Food Program WFP official said earlier this week there's enough food to feed Gaza's entire population sitting just outside of the Strip. We need land crossings. We need access to get into Gaza, whether in the southern parts of Gaza or the northern part of Gaza, because the situation is catastrophic. So having access is really our number one priority, said Samir Abel-Jabir, WFP's director of emergency. The WFP has said airdropped, which Biden authorized last week, are a last resort and will not avert famine. On Friday, aid packages dropped into Gaza by U.S. military planes killed 5 people and injured at least 10 others. Right. Avril Benoit, executive director for Doctors Without Borders, argued Friday that Biden's plan for a temporary port is a glaring distraction from the real problem: Israel's indiscriminate and disproportionate military campaign and punishing siege, aka a genocide. The food, water, and medical supplies so desperately needed by people in Gaza are sitting just across the border, said Benoit. Israel needs to facilitate rather than block the flow of supplies. This is not a logistics problem. It's a political problem. Rather than look to the U.S. military to build a workaround, the U.S. should insist on immediate humanitarian access using the roads and entry points that already exist. Refugees International said in a report released Thursday that its research teams found Israel is engaged in routine and arbitrary denial of legitimate humanitarian goods from entering Gaza, forcing aid convoys to undergo a highly complicated inspection process without clear or consistent instructions. Our research makes clear that the conditions inside of Gaza are apocalyptic, the group said. After 5 months of war, Palestinians are struggling to find adequate food, water, shelter, and basic medicine. Famine-level hunger is already widespread and worsening. Matt Duss, Executive Vice President of the Center of International Policy and a former foreign policy advisor to none other than U.S. Senator and cuck Bernie Sanders, wrote Friday that while more aid for Palestinians on the brink of starvation is obviously good, the Biden administration's airdrops and plan for a temporary port underscore the incoherence of U.S. policy right now, in which we're trying to ease Palestinian suffering while continuing to unconditionally arm and support the government that is intentionally inflicting that suffering. The president seems to recognize that ultimately this conflict will require a political solution, but is still unwilling to bring the full weight of America's considerable leverage to that goal, wrote Duss, aka he knows it'll affect his election, but doesn't give a shit about the actual people. So that's what that sounds like to me. You know, has to give lip service, but in action reminds me of another quote. There's a private policy and a public policy. Sound about right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, temporary port in Gaza. Reef Breland, does this sound like the beginning of that Ben Gurion Canal to you? That sounds like exactly what that is. So, yeah. I wonder when we see the location, if it lines up with where they propose that canal. We'll see. Mint Press. U.S. to send 1,000 soldiers to build important Gaza next to gas reserves. Right? The Department of Defense is sending 1,000 soldiers from the U.S. Army's 7th Expeditionary Transportation Brigade to construct a temporary floating pier, end quote, to be anchored off the coast of Gaza. The purported aim is to bring aid to the Strip, but many are questioning if there is a connection to the attended gas extraction in the area.
Yes.
Uh-huh. So, MJ Salam, in my experience in the Navy, and to this date, there has never been a temporary port built and then removed.
Right. It's, again, this is expensive, even though it's temporary. Like, you're not going to build an expensive thing like that with the idea of removing it later. No.
They will be building a permanent port, a military base, and a facility to support oil and gas drilling. If they truly wanted to get aid shipments to Gaza, just let the 100 of trucks at the border in. This operation is to steal Gaza's resources. So it's also not a great look when you first set off for this 4-hour cruise. You play the fucking Imperial March. Like you're gonna go build a fucking Death Star. What?
Right. I think that just went over their heads, but like, still yeah.
I can't even. No one thought, hey, don't do that. Hey, don't. That's gonna be bad look. Here they are, Care Bear. This is all the stuff they're bringing in to build this, right? Do you think all that is there to make something temporary?
Nope.
I mean, and who's making money off that endeavor right there? Who are we paying for that? So
we are.
Hotspot is here to remind us the Gaza Marine, Gaza's untapped natural gas field. Make no mistake, this is what Biden's temporary port to deliver aid to Gaza is actually about.
Take a look at this. 20 miles off the coast of the Gaza Strip, there's an untapped natural gas field called the Gaza Marine. This field holds an estimated 1 trillion cubic feet of natural gas, and the U.S. wants to develop it. Amos Hochstein, Biden's energy security advisor, referred to this as an economic revitalization plan for a post-war Gaza Strip, stating that there are companies willing to develop those fields. The United States has a contentious history with foreign resources. During the Iraq War, the U.S. opened the country's fully nationalized oil industry. Today, Iraq is dominated by privatized foreign firms. Remember to follow for more updates.
Yeah. I mean, par for the course, no?
Take a look at this.
Par for the course.
So, guess who's going? Come on. Thank you. World Central Kitchen, the organization founded by the chef Jose Andres, is central to the U.S.'s aid plan in Gaza. So, yeah, Jose Andres being a dickhead, as he has been frequently recently. I think he did Ukraine stuff too, if I'm not mistaken. Diplomatic source to take post Gaza maritime route was Netanyahu's idea, Collin. This is an exclusive to the Jerusalem Post. So, Israel admits Biden's Gaza seaport has been Netanyahu's idea all along, and it's part of Israel's plan to dismantle and replace UNRWA, as well as permanently cut Gaza off from Israel, the West Bank, and the world, and contain international outrage against Israel's war and starvation of Gaza. Right? So look here. Is the replacement of UNRWA. The trucks with the food on them will be transported to distribution points in Gaza. The political source said that there is no guarantee that Hamas will not try to take over the trucks, as happened in the past, but they are determined to prevent this. The political official explained that through the opening of the cruise line, Israel hopes to achieve several goals. The first, the replacement of UNRWA by another organization that will be responsible for the distribution of food. This is because they're claiming UNRWA is Hamas now, right?
Yes.
So, a third reason is the reduction of international pressure on Israel as the one that supposedly withholds foods from the resident of Gaza and even starves them, as claimed by the world. Right? So this is the narrative they're trying to manage, literally written in ink for you to read. Compton J, friend of the show, The plan for a maritime route to Gaza via Cyprus to provide humanitarian assistance for Palestinians was initiated by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in collaboration with Joe Biden, a senior diplomatic source told the Jerusalem Post, right? Netanyahu.
Oh wait, pause. I thought Joe Biden was trying to push Bibi to do the right thing, man.
I mean, maybe.
I thought Biden was calling Bibi. I'm not going to say the words, but basically, I forget exactly what word he said, but basically everything but a child of God.
Don't lie on the public platform.
You know?
I mean, I didn't lie, Biden did.
No, yes. Netanyahu took the initiative to establish maritime humanitarian aid for the civilian population in the Gaza Strip in collaboration with the Biden admin, the source stated. According to the source, on October 22nd, 2 weeks following the war's outbreak, Netanyahu discussed with Biden the concept of delivering humanitarian aid to Gaza via the sea, contingent on an Israeli inspection in Cyprus. So it's got to go to Cyprus, and then it goes into Gaza, right?
Watch it not leave Cyprus at all.
Sure, but it's, I mean, even if it's, we know what that other temporary port's going to be used for anyway, so...
right.
CJ continues, then on October 31st, Prime Minister Netanyahu outlined this strategy to Cypriot President Nikos Christodoulides. The source added,
yes.
Christodoulides, I think. Christodoulides.
I guess.
The source added, in addition, the matter was revisited on January 19th during a dialogue between Netanyahu and Biden, where Netanyahu proposed, according to the source, I want to suggest setting up a team to explore maritime supply through Cyprus after a thorough inspection of all goods. This source, close to the PM, insinuated that Biden was simply implementing a plan for Netanyahu, not actually initiating anything new. The source spoke with the Jerusalem Post at the time of the heightened diplomatic tensions between Biden and Netanyahu, as the U.S. president has sought to distance himself from the prime minister as part of the 2024 re-election campaign. Remember, we were talking about that earlier? Biden made headlines at his State of the Union address to Congress last Thursday when he announced that the U.S. military planned to build an emergency temporary port off the Gaza coastline to help facilitate the entry of humanitarian aid into Gaza. He made the statement in light of the hunger crisis in Gaza and to underscore the U.S. commitment to helping the Palestinian people during Israel's military campaign to destroy Hamas. The move was also viewed as a criticism of Netanyahu by the United States, when Biden stating in a speech on Thursday that Israel could and should do more to help Palestinians in Gaza. Years before the Gaza war, Israel Katz, now the foreign minister, had drawn up plans for a maritime route via Cyprus involving a floating island. The project was never executed, but he revived it after the war began on October 7th. One of the complicating factors with a maritime route was the absence of a port in Gaza big enough to handle cargo ships. Why might they need a port for cargo ships in Gaza, Care Bear?
I don't know, Reef.
That must be one of Ben Gurion's ideas. 150 nukes across the country to build a canal. Something like that. Israel has welcomed Biden's announcement of a military operation to build a temporary port. Now, why would they do that, Collin? Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, together with the Navy commander, the head of GOGAT, military secretary and commander of the Navy's Ashot Arena, were briefed Sunday on the work needed to establish a naval pier and routes that will enable the distribution of aid to civilians. So he's the one, like, here's what we got to do, right? Like, that's the guy they're going to. So Dan Cohen writes, I first reported on Israel's plan to build an island seaport in 2015 when Israel Katz, now Israel's foreign minister, proposed it. Now Biden has adopted Katz's plan so they can pillage Gaza's gas resources as they exterminate the Palestinian population, right? So Dan Cohen doing the work again. But yeah, thoughts, Scare Bear?
I mean, not surprised. I mean, we said it. We said this months ago. You know, like with the Ben Gurion Canal, Like I mean, obviously at that time, other than the gas beds off the coast, we couldn't necessarily not prove, but we weren't entirely sure back then. This was about 3 months ago, that how this was going to come to light. And it seems now they have found the way for that to happen. So, but again, if this is what makes Biden and the Democratic Party especially devious, that they're using the idea of military aid / a ceasefire, that's just a cover. Is really meant to kind of bring this along and bring plans of the Ben-Gurion Canal, assuming this to be true, which, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. Why would you spend more money to build a floating dock, a temporary one at that? That's not temporary, that's an investment.
Yeah.
So, they're not going to spend that kind of money on things if they don't intend to get something out of it in return.
Yeah.
So, but the idea that Biden is using ceasefire / humanitarian aid in the guise of helping the Palestinians, when it's really just to profit, well, I wouldn't say him, but to profit like the lobby's pockets, I would say.
Yeah.
And the fact that people are not necessarily catching that is kind of sad. Like, I mean, not to mentioned on Twitter,
they had places like airports and piers and stuff already before Israel decided to start carpet bombing them. So, it's just not addressing the root causes of any of this, so, and you're already seeing Hollywood and other places try to give their lip service to this so that they can, I'm sure many of them will tell us that Biden is trying to do everything he can to help this out. So, you know
what? I said this today, but I've been, at the Oscars.
Yeah.
Like there's some celebrities who are wearing those ceasefire pins or whatever. And I know there are a few people in the space that are like, that's a great thing. And I've been kind of mixed on that. And I wasn't exactly sure why up until today when I really thought about it. And I think, shout out to Savvy, I think she made a good point on this when I listened to one of her clips. I think it might have been today or yesterday. But I kind of thought about this too. She mentioned this for another reason, but I was thinking about it in terms of those stupid pins. Like the celebrities that are wearing those pins, that's for the fans because many of their fans are young. Many of the fans they know would be pro-Palestine, so they can wear the pin. They're not going to say genocide. They're not going to necessarily say ceasefire now or whatever, but they'll wear these pins as some might. I mean, some have, but I think that like in Hollywood, you're not going to have people who are going to be willing to lose their careers over saying genocide.
Yeah.
Meanwhile,
given DJ Khaled is still an asshat.
Yes.
But
I think in a way his silence I kind of prefer. Because that speaks volumes more to me. Because him being silent, we know where he stands.
Yeah.
But the idea that you would silently put on a pin and say ceasefire in that vein,
but liberation,
you're not willing to, right?
Yeah.
You're not willing to say liberation. You're not willing to say genocide. And
maybe you are.
You're not willing.
Yeah,
but not
prove me wrong.
Right, but I'm saying, but not celebrities though.
Yeah,
not many of. I'll argue most of them.
Well, it's
so
like the squad. The squad has now picked up ceasefire too, right? Even though they're willing to do nothing.
And even
for
AOC wore a Palestinian pin at the State of the Union, I believe.
Yeah.
Whereas
months and months.
I think it was like Tlaib and Bush were cafe like at the State of the Union in protests, I would argue. But again, none of them are willing to say genocide. None of them are willing, as you said, to say liberation. They're all doing it because that's what people are pushing them to say, but not necessarily take the necessary actions to make a ceasefire happen. But more importantly, again, as I said earlier, ceasefire in of itself, that's the floor.
Yeah.
Like what we really need to be talking about is Zionism and how it is essentially hijacked religion and for Jews their culture to justify their experience, especially what happened to the Holocaust, as a cover. And this is what Jonathan Glaser, who won that Oscar, was mentioning a Sunday night, and people were up in arms over him.
Yeah.
Like, you're using your pain as a shield to inflict pain on other people. And I know for me, I'm just thinking about this. If this were within the Black community, if we were doing shit like that, we wouldn't hear the end of it.
Yeah.
But again, I speak to the exceptionalism, and I'm not saying for all Jews. I'm just saying for the Zionists who are, and I have to be careful because not all Jews are Zionists. So I do have to be careful on that. But so I want to make that clarification. But it's just this belief that we can do whatever we want. We could take over whatever we want, and you can't stop us. And again, and I probably will mention this more, like I'm talking with Indy. I've talked to Indy about this quite a bit. But like as a Black person, I kind of feel a way about it. Because when we talk about issues regarding reparations, which we also have talked about on the show, people within, even in our community, basically say kick rocks. We're not going to talk about reparations, anything regarding Black people. We don't care. Shut the fuck up.
Yep.
But you expect me to feel bad for you regarding the Holocaust, but yet you feel, but at the cost of Palestinians, that you're going to essentially ethnically cleanse them off the land and displace them. I have a huge problem with that.
Me too.
And it makes me feel a way that that's where we're at right now.
Yep.
In terms of, I have to, feel sympathy for you in terms of your history, but you're not willing to feel sympathy for me in terms of mine.
Yep. Well, I think that's it. Look out for the location of this pier and see if it lines up with that Ben Gurion project. But
I mean, honestly, it really doesn't matter as long as it's on the sea.
Close enough, yeah.
like, it really doesn't matter where it is. So, but but I don't know. It's it just sucks that like we're at this impasse in thought that as a Black person, our feelings are ignored, our needs are ignored. But like, again, going with TikTok, some people are mentioning that just now, we're able to pass that bill within days. Well, really months, but days.
Yep.
But we can't talk about reparations. We can't talk about police reform,
healthcare, none of that. Chris
healthcare, like like healthcare, like homelessness, like
Chris in the chat said your point about how fast they passed the TikTok bill was on point, Collin. Yeah, they're more than willing to call for censorship very quickly.
Right. Like, but so this just kind of proves, and you know what, Jamal Bowman, like, I mean, we did a segment on this a couple of years ago when he spoke at my event that with Empower Ed. He mentioned, like, we can do anything in Congress.
Yeah.
So this just kind of proves his point. Like, anything can be done if they have the means and the will to do it.
Yeah. Well,
but they're just not willing to do it for us. They're willing to do it for their donors and their lobby friends.
Yep.
Because that's what makes them the money.
And what
that's
they're really
what
mad
enriches
about
them.
is that we've been talking about that kind of stuff on places like TikTok, on, you know, this channel here multiple times, which is why we're censored and demonetized, which if you want to help us out, you know, in financial ways, you could go to ko-fi.com/Indie News Network, you know, or you can scan that QR code on your screen now, or if you're in the chat, you can put !donate. And if you don't want to give financially, this stuff is very useful. Like and subscribing, sharing these streams and videos, leaving comments. We're trying to get to 2K subscribers. We're getting there. So, you know, appreciate you if you're already subbed. Well, Cabra, that's our show.
I think someone unsubbed probably during my rant.
Oh, well, you know, they could have bought some merch before they left. You know, they could have got that Eat That Watermelon hoodie. They would have been very happy about that. You know, or my dial doesn't go to delicate. Shout out to Jesse Jet. You know, so hit those like buttons, people. You know, very useful. Anything you want to tell people before we get out of here? I know we got stuff coming up this week, so, you know.
You probably have a better idea with some of this than me. So Tara's going to be live Friday, right?
Yep, with the Member of the Workers' Party, one of the people helping that out. So if you're looking at that George Galloway win, that might be nice for you to go watch. That'll be Friday. I don't know what time yet. So I imagine either like 1 or 9, depending. So we'll see how that goes. Sundays how do we miss that? Yeah, Angel is going to be Friday, right? Angel in the afternoon. I think he's also doing a wrestling stream Saturdays. Snow Himbo's doing stuff then, if you want to check that out. Trying to remember. Chris, you're in the chat. When's your next No Labels podcast? Let people know. You know. Anybody else we should plug? Beauty and the Boomer Saturday nights. Go check them out.
Right. Like, I think next week, nothing up until next Wednesday for us, I guess.
Cool.
Crab might possibly do something with Politically Homeless. I know
he's been working on that.
Been very busy with Hotshot, so I think he's trying to, you know, try and find another co-host that can, you know, who'd be interested in doing that with him.
Mastermind Hour's been doing stuff. He said Behind the Heart Politics on Sunday. You know, go check out Mastermind Hour.
So Chris,
Friday at 11.
He's
featuring Big Mad Crab. Cool.
Okay.
Sounds like a plan. So yeah, check all those people out.
I think other than that, that's it. I can't think of anything. I think that's just more of the normal stuff.
Nope.
That's been going on. So,
well, I think that's it. As always, kids, labels are bad. Stay independent. Good night, fam.
Have a good week, everyone.
We want to talk right down to earth in a language that everybody here can easily understand.
Bye, have a great time.